murderers!
Peter! Turn the other cheek.
You'll pay the price for this, like your friends, John the Baptist!
President Obama is leading a wholesale purging of military leadership, and no one knows why the moves are taking place. 9 senior generals have lost their commands so far this year. Up to 200 other military leaders have been removed from the positions by the president in the last 5 years. A growing number of retired generals are questioning the reasons behind the removals. A few former leaders say the administration is removing military leaders who may have policy differences with Obama. What these differences are is unknown. The former generals and admirals say the president is also using dismissals to scare those who remain into complying with his policies. One former Navy SEAL is telling the press the president is removing military leaders who will not agree to disarm Americans. So far, the White House has been quiet about the moves. Officials only speak to specific replacements for infractions of military discipline. The rate at which Obama is removing military leaders from their positions is being described as a purge.
Let's start first with the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense has just issued a new list of extremists that should be watched. And on that, in fact, number 1, past the Muslim Brotherhood and past Hamas, Hezbollah, number 1, evangelical Christians.
Judas. Your friend from Galilee has caused quite a stir.
Military leaders out of their posts since President Obama took office.
Why are we seeing this purge of some of our greatest leaders, and what effect will this have on our national security?
A lot of these guys disagree professionally with the White House, and as a result, they're getting fired.
Georgia restaurant owner who proudly makes it his mission to honor those who have served our country, now facing a fight over a U.S. flag that he flies at his establishment. Darren Miller says he was cited by the city for showing his appreciation.
President Obama has relieved U.S. Army Colonel Eric Tilley of duty, citing misconduct. The move was made soon after a group of retired generals described a purge of military leaders by Obama. The president has removed 9 generals and flag officers from duty so far this year. Nearly 200 military commanders have been forced from their positions in the last 5 years.
There's no doubt that Obama is intent on emasculating the military and will fire anyone who disagrees with him. Another retired general, Army Lieutenant General William Jerry Boykin, who was with Delta Force, said over the past 3 years, it is unprecedented for the number of 4-star generals to be relieved of duty and not necessarily relieved.
Local law enforcement in particular are being put at a new crossroads and are being positioned to make some tough decisions about their duties. They will very soon be choosing between enforcing constitutional rule of law and new laws which contradict our constitutional principles and which make criminals out of innocents.
What do you want with him?
Just to talk.
Judas.
You are his friend. Bring him here, discreetly.
And what's in it for me?
Developing story, a shakeup at the highest levels of the U.S. military. A top general in charge of nuclear weapons fired, and this comes 48 hours after another top military commander was dismissed. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz has been talking to her sources all day, has the very latest on what's happening right now. Martha.
Diane, these officers have some of the highest security clearances you can get and have been in charge of the nation's most sensitive nuclear arsenals. A stunning chain of events. Today, Michael Carey, the 2-star general responsible for the nation's 3 intercontinental ballistic missile wings, fired from his command. The reason? Personal misbehavior on a military business trip. This comes just 48 hours after President Obama himself relieved the number 2 in command over the nation's nuclear arsenal over his suspected use of counterfeit poker chips. These follow an alarming string of general officers losing their jobs this year for inappropriate behavior, misconduct, or lack of leadership. 2 Marine Corps generals fired less than 2 weeks ago for not providing proper force protection in Afghanistan. An Army Brigadier General relieved of duty for adultery. An Army 2-star general fired for groping a civilian. And in March, a Navy 1-star removed for racially insensitive comments and abusive leadership. Last spring, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was so concerned about all the high-profile cases, he sent a letter to Pentagon brass urging a recommitment to ethical leadership. The Navy has been the most aggressive in taking its officers to task. At least 16 commanders.
His 20-year military service and his 10 years of work at Dameron Hospital, Boots Hawks says he's not afraid of expressing his beliefs.
I believe in America, and I believe in God so strongly, and I believe that America needs a blessing.
The phrase, "God bless America," has been in Hawks' work email signature for more than a year. But just days before Veterans Day, Hawks says the hospital asked him to remove it. He says he did remove it before he sent another email. Yet the next day, he was called into the office.
I was going to be put on administrative leave immediately, and this was last Friday, right before the Veterans Day weekend.
In the end, Hawks just wants to be able to put "God bless America" back on his email signature.
Meanwhile, an American soldier fighting for faith after an army briefing slaps a hate group label on a well-established traditional Christian ministry.
That's right. The presentation linked the American Family Association to hate groups such as the Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazis, Black Panthers, and the Nation of Islam.
The soldier was so enraged, the fearful punishment for his own Christian values, he reached out to our own Todd Starnes.
Yeah, this happened out at Camp Shelby in Mississippi, and the soldier was part of 50 active duty and reservist troops that had to attend this mandatory session. And in this session, they certainly did label the American Family Association, which is a well-respected Christian ministry, as an example of a hate group. And this soldier snapped a photograph that he sent me showing the slideshow presentation, and also another briefing, and I believe this was in the Air Force, labeled Evangelical Christianity and Catholicism as examples of religious extremism. So there's something going on here. The Pentagon, we tried to talk to them. They told us we needed to talk to the Army. And at that point, the Army, well, it's been almost 24 hours and we still haven't heard back from them.
A U.S. soldier in our Army spoke out. He said this: "I had to show Americans what our soldiers are now being taught. I couldn't just let this one pass. I was completely taken back by this blatant attack, not only on the AFA, but Christians in our beliefs." Your thoughts on that?
Elizabeth, for the past 5 years under the Obama administration, we have seen a significant increase in anti-Christian rhetoric and activity in the
What would you
military.
think if police pulled you over and asked for a DNA test? One woman says it happened to her, and she called NBC5 to investigate the suspicious stop.
They're doing this in 30 cities across the country.
You can't just be pulled over randomly or for no reason.
But civil rights attorney Frank Colosi questions whether such stops are constitutional.
I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't seem right that they should be able to do any of it. I mean, if it's voluntary, it's voluntary. And again, none of it felt voluntary at all.
We should make it clear the people actually doing the survey were government contractors. The Federal Traffic Safety Administration did not respond to
attacking Christianity, as we told you last night. College student Ryan Rotella, a junior at Florida Atlantic University, has won an apology from the school after he was thrown out of class. One of his teachers, Dr. DeAndre Poole, vice chairman of the Palm Beach Democratic Party, ordered Ryan and other students to stomp on the word Jesus.
Said to be sentenced to 80 lashes for taking part in a religious ceremony.
Fighters in Syria are believed to be holding a group of nuns hostage, abducted from an Orthodox monastery near Damascus. They have reportedly been moved to the rebel-controlled.
The president, who took to his podium to plead to go into Syria, never even mentioned the persecution of Christians. The same goes for Egypt. They're being persecuted in Egypt. It's gotten worse under the Muslim Brotherhood. The president says absolutely nothing. It's despicable that they don't call attention to this.
It seems to me the president is busily at work trying to acquire power that he doesn't have. And it really began when he lost the House in 2010.
But let
And
me
he no
ask you about
longer-
that, because we've had lawyers, constitutional lawyers, come on this show and say, okay, so when that happens, when you have a president who, in your view, or the view of some, is out of control in terms of overreach, you, as the lawmaker, really have two meaningful options. And the main one that has been used historically is try to impeach him. I mean, is that ever considered, as opposed to running into the courts and trying to get them to do it? The other one is to try to defund the president's legislations, which, of course, you guys have tried before.
Yeah, defunding is a less dramatic response. The challenge there is the U.S. Senate is in Democratic hands, and they basically, enable the president to do all of these things, and it's very difficult through the funding mechanism to push back against them.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yesterday, President Obama signed an executive order. Following upon what President Bush proclaimed, President Obama claimed the power to punish people even after a jury has found them not guilty. No Western government has ever claimed the power to do this. Not the King of England, not Hitler, not Stalin, not even the Russian and Chinese communists.
Our presidents can now, on their own, order assassinations, including American citizens, operate secret military tribunals, engage in torture, enforce indefinite imprisonments without due process, order searches and seizures without proper warrants, gutting the Fourth Amendment, ignore the 60-day rule for reporting to the Congress the nature of any military operation as required by the War Powers Resolution, continue the Patriot Act abuses without oversight, wage war at will, treat all Americans as suspected terrorists at airports with TSA groping and nude x-raying.
Luzinski said those who are not going along with the changes in America will need to be controlled by law enforcement. Even later, he was questioned by some of the troopers present, and he questioned back and asked if they were willing and prepared to confiscate illegal weapons if they were ordered to do so. His assignment with the Colorado State Police was as an analyst for the Colorado Information Analysis Center. It is funded by Homeland Security and run by the Colorado State Police. Luzinski says he gets his information from the Department of Homeland Security.
The way that they classify terrorism, they also look at domestic terror issues, and there are those who, there have been memos out there, you've seen them, I've seen them, that have suggested people who have extreme religious views, people who are pro-life. Some of those people could be in some ways considered domestic terrorists. They're on watch lists, or they should be monitored by the government. I mean, how far could this be taken?
Well, early in this administration, Janet Napolitano, no relation, the Secretary of Homeland Security, issued a very startling memorandum. And I remember discussing it with Bill O'Reilly in a whimsical way, but it's really terrifying. The memorandum said people who are pro-life, people who believe in the right to keep and bear arms, returning veterans, people who think the government is too big and the IRS is too powerful, could be characterized as domestic terrorists. Well, that group of people could characterize 2/3 of the country. And this language, this frivolous use of language by this administration, and then claiming they have the right to use force to stop dead in their tracks the people who fit into these categories, violates the principles of the Declaration of Independence and violates the supremacy of the Constitution, which they've taken an oath to uphold. This is all very dangerous stuff. The government gets its powers from the consent of the governed. Do you know anybody who consented to the government doing this?
Today, in your hearing, the scriptures are fulfilled.
Scriptures are fulfilled. Did he say fulfilled?
But how can he dare to say such a thing? Repent and believe the good news. The kingdom of heaven, behold, is suddenly upon you.